Hello and welcome along to the Property Academy podcast by Opus Partners. I'm your host, Ted McKnight.
And I'm Andrew Nicol.
And today on the show, we're talking about the best places to invest in New Zealand under $500,000. And we're going to do a bit of a tier list. Now, we did one of these, I think, last week, and we were talking about the best places to invest in the country. But then I was in talking to the team at One Roof at the Herald, and they said, you know what, we'd really like to see, where are the best places to invest in New Zealand under 500K? So we're going to do another tier list because although the average house price in New Zealand is about $800K to $1 million, depending on which data you look at, there are some places in the country, in fact, 18 council areas in total, where house prices are still under 500K. Now, it tends to be in smaller areas like South Taranaki, where the average house price is 480K, or up in the far north, where the average house price is about 470K. But then also some places like Gore in the South Island.
360?
Yeah, median sale price, 360 grand still. And I think certainly for people like me who live in Auckland, you think, gosh, that's cheap. Maybe it's a good place to invest. And so we're going to talk about all of the small towns in New Zealand where house prices are still cheap and which places might be a good place to invest. We're going to look at 11 in total. And I'm really excited about this because this is going to test Andrew's knowledge of small town New Zealand.
Oh, you know that you're going to make me look like a fool.
Yeah, I know. Those are my favourite episodes. Those are my absolute
Hey, well, actually, I just have to say to you, the most texts that I've had about any podcast out of the 1,600 odd episodes that we've done was the other day when I called you out on something and rang the mortgage brokers live.
Yeah,
the fans like that.
Yeah, okay. So I can't wait to talk about Taumaranui and ask you where it is. But let's start with Kawerau. Now, Andrew, where in New Zealand do you think Kawerau is?
There.
Yeah, so just for anybody listening if you're listening to the audio only version of this, Andrew's pointing at a map of New Zealand indiscriminately. Do you know where Kawerau is?
No idea.
So Kawerau is in the Bay of Plenty, and it is New Zealand's smallest council district. Whereabouts is it? I have to type it
Oh, there
in.
it is. I think I can see it right there.
Oh, you can too, actually. So it is a tiny wee town in the Bay of Plenty district, and it is most famous for, I'm pretty sure, its paper mill in total.
yeah?
Now, before we put it into our different tiers, of course, if you haven't listened to the previous one, there are 5 different tiers. We've got S tier, which is superior, and then A, B, C, D, and we're going to rank each place in New Zealand. Now, Kawerau, population of only 7,500 people. Average house price there is about 350K, and a really good average gross yield, about 6.78%, but it is pretty overvalued, almost 30% overvalued by our analysis. So, Andrew, where do you want to put this in the different tiers?
So, do you know, if it's known for its paper mill, is that a major part of the employment there?
I could get the data for you right now if you want.
Yeah, I would like the data.
Okay, so I'm not sure if this is going to make it into the podcast, and I'm not sure if it's going to make it into the YouTube. Producer Dave seems to be nodding to me.
It'll just depend on whether or not Ed's right or wrong, basically.
No. Let me just log in. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see that we are logging into Infometrics, and we pay about 12 grand a year for this data.
And the reason I'm
Andrew doesn't know that.
The reason I'm asking this is because I want to know how susceptible they would be to a single factory or something shutting down that then causes people to leave or a major vacancy.
So I'd expect that it'd be pretty large, because if we look at Kawerau District, about 50% of their economy comes from what's called goods producing industries. A lot of that will be the paper mill. Now, if we think about that compared to the rest of New Zealand, it's only about 17%. You can see that manufacturing makes up a massive part of their economy, which is going to be primarily down to that paper mill.
So I'm going to go back to the tier list. I'm going to go with C. And the reason I'm going to go with C over D is because it does have a high yield. So if you had cash and you wanted a high, put it D. No, actually, because
put it C. I like it in C.
Okay, all right. But so it has got one positive, but if it's overvalued at the moment and you're buying for growth, that's a risk for me. If it's a small population, if it's highly reliant on a particular industry, I wouldn't be investing there anytime soon. I've given it C because of the high yield.
My understanding is that the paper mill's a bit on the rocks as well.
Oh, well, then why is it not D?
It's got a really good yield. So it's 0.7% on average. So pretty good. Now let's come to Martin. We're in New Zealand. We're 5 minutes into this podcast already, and we've done one area, so we need to speed up. Now, right. Martin, we're in New Zealand.
You show me, Ed. No, I want to make sure you know this time.
I know where Martin is. Do you know where it is?
No idea.
I'll show you. So Martin is a small town, I'm pretty sure in the Manawatu Wanganui district. And I believe it's in Rangatiki, actually. Let me just zoom out for you. So Martin is a small town just north of Palmerston, north and south of Wanganui. Now, if we look at some of the stats for Martin, we've got an average house price of $422,000, tiny population, about 5,000 people, but again, decent yield, 6%, but still looking fairly overvalued. What do you think about Martin?
The best I'd put is C.
Why is that?
Because it's got a high yield again, but none of the other factors are attractive to me.
Yeah, one of the troubles about Martin as well is if you just look at where it is in New Zealand, it's not on the main highway. Yeah, so we've got Wanganui up here, we've got Palmerston North. This is the road going through it, and Martin's all the way up over here. You know, I would almost put Bulls, which is an even smaller town, slightly better than that as well. Let's come to a different part of the country. I've got Taumaranui on there, but I'm going to take you down to Gore
I'd like to see the stats on Gore, just purely because of the prices.
Okay, so just again, for anybody who doesn't know, you know where Gore is. Yes. Tell them where Gore is, Andrew. If I had to show you a map of New Zealand, where's Gore?
Above Wellington? No, sorry, it's down. Oh.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I am.
Did you?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, you're a South Islander. You should know where Gore is. It's all the way down here, around here in the South Island. There we go. And
I didn't think it was that low down, to be honest.
Did you really not?
No.
It's in Southland. They roll their R's.
Yeah, okay.
And they make cheese rolls.
Yeah, no, I like the cheese rolls.
So if we look at Gore, decent population, 12,800 people.
Okay,
Gosh, look at those property prices, $360.
I'd put that as a C as
Is everything just a C to you?
I'd put it in, well, yes, because it's got a better population. The prices are pretty good. The yield's okay, and it's still overvalued. I mean, none of these are places I'd be rushing to invest.
Okay, we'll put Gore in C. Let's look at maybe a slightly larger population base. Let's talk about Timaru.
Oh, yeah, give me the numbers on Timaru.
Okay, so this is what's interesting about Timaru is it's a pretty big population. We're talking about 48,500 people, almost 50,000 people, but the median sale price of a house there is still low, $490,000. Now, it's about 1.5% overvalued. That's not much to be too concerned about. And the average gross yield there is about 4.2%, which is on the lower side. But what do you think about Timaru?
Okay, so it's slightly undervalued. I'd probably put that as a C. No, I'm just kidding. I'll put that as maybe a B.
Yeah, I'd put that as a B as well. Why are we putting it as B instead of C?
Because it's got a larger population, slightly undervalued.
So what is it about higher populations that make you interested in it?
So then you've got a bit more diversity in terms of who your tenant's going to be, who your owner's going to be in the future. You got more jobs.
Yeah, so you're more likely to sell that property more quickly. We know that areas with lower populations, because you've just got fewer buyers, those properties tend to take a lot longer to sell. For instance, in the West Coast, it can take you easily 3 or 4 months on average to sell a property, depending on which part of the property cycle you're in. In an area like Timaru, you are more likely to sell that property quickly. So if you need to get out of it, you can.
Now, give me the data on Ashburton.
Okay, so Ashburton is just an hour up the road from Timaru. And I've always been a bit of a fan of Ashburton.
It's down there.
I've been waiting for Andrew to find me some properties to recommend to
We've been
investors
trying.
in Ashburton.
Okay, so you're 4.12 undervalued. You got a good population.
About
Your
30.
yield's pretty good. I'd put that probably as a superior.
So, you're going superior.
Well,
on
out of
Ashy.
these, I might
Ashy
change
B.
my mind. Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, if it's undervalued at the moment, I mean,
Just for everybody on the podcast, we've got to tell them how undervalued. So it's about 4% undervalued.
I did say that.
About
but
a 5% gross yield, 470K kind of average house price, and 35,000 people. And the good thing about Ashburton is if we compare it to some of these other towns that we're talking about, it is probably the closest one to a major city. It's only about an hour drive away from Christchurch. So I'd be comfortable with you putting Ashburton up in S tier.
Give
I
me
like
Invercargill
Ashburton.
next because I want to see what the numbers are on that.
Okay,
right
so Invercargill City, probably the largest population base of the areas we're going to look at today, 57,000 people. Again, good house price, 440 odd K, 5% gross yield. In fact, we know that investors are getting higher than 5% gross yields in Invercargill, but this is how we're measuring it. About 12% overvalued though. Now, just for context, I'm pretty sure that in our last tier list, we put Invercargill as A tier.
I would put it A again because I know that there's a lot of infrastructure spend going on there at the moment. So I do think there's some reasons that overvalue might change over time because, of course, that can happen, right?
And one of the other things that we should mention is obviously when we're thinking about different areas to invest on this show, we do tend to prefer areas that have a few more people because the issue, even if you look at somewhere like Kawerau, the thing we're often worried about is only 7,500 people living there. There's not going to be as many tenants looking around. So sometimes you might have more vacancy, might be harder to find a tenant, might be harder to sell that property. That's why when a place has more people like Timaru, Invercargill, Ashburton, we tend to favour it a bit more compared to a town like Martin that only has about 5,000 people. Now, speaking of...
Give me Westport. Yeah, give me Westport
Okay,
numbers.
we'll give Westport. I still want to talk about Taumarunui.
Yeah, I know, but I'm getting the low-hanging fruit first.
Yeah, you want to talk about all of this. You're such a South Islander. You just want to talk about the South Island. You think that New Zealand ends at the Cook Strait, just like us all. Okay, so Westport, oh no, you can see it on the map. I was going to make you guess where it is. So Westport is actually not in Westland District. It is actually up in the Grey District. No, it's in the Buller District. I messed that up. It's in the Buller District. So if we look at the stats on Westport, we see that, I just love that house price, 360K.
Yeah.
Like,
it's good yield, it's undervalued, but it's
about a 6% gross yield there.
Tiny population, though.
Just 4.6K people, 4,600 people.
I'm going to go with C again.
You're going to go C?
Yeah, what were you going to go?
You might give it a B. You've just got to be careful with calling West Coast undervalued, though.
That's the only challenge.
And the reason you've got to be careful with calling West Coast undervalued is that it's the only area in New Zealand where the population is decreasing. You've got a very small population in general as well. And so what that kind of shows is that property prices in the West Coast just haven't gone up quite as much over the last couple of years compared to the rest of the country. And
I was almost going to call it a D for that reason.
Really?
Yeah, negative population growth and not good. Oh, you're now sliding.
Oh, I might let you.
Okay, put that as D. That was my initial thought.
But what I would say is it always comes down to like, some investors don't care about house prices, right?
Correct.
Because they think that it doesn't matter, even though we know for a fact that it does. But if you care about yield, Westport could be a place to invest. Now, I want to take you, let's go back to the North Island, and I want to talk about Taumarunui. Now, Andrew, where do you think...
No idea.
You don't know where Taumarunui is?
No
you
idea.
don't know?
No, don't know, don't care.
Oh, that is terrible. You have just offended
the one listener of the show that lives an hour from there.
No, Taumarunui is a lovely town in the Ruapehu district. I'll show you where it is in New Zealand. We've got about 4,000, 5,000 people who live in Taumarunui. Okay. It is very close to...
if you're listening to the show and you're from there, text me directly and I'll eat my words.
What's your number?
021.
Yeah.
It's on the website.
Yeah. I want to see this. Now, don't lie to me. If someone from Taumaranui texts you, you have to tell me.
But they send me a picture next to their sign, so I know that it's there, and with a picture of today's newspaper.
No, that's
Well,
too
how am I
much.
going to verify it? Because you'll you'll go buy a SIM card and text me. I know you.
Let's look at the stats for Taumaranui. So if we look at Taumaranui, population about 5,000 people, average house price 350K, 6% gross yield, but a bit overvalued, 22%. Now, remember, this is a town that's really close to the mountains, so a bit more of a tourist destination there. What do you think? Where are you going to put it?
See.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Why is that?
The low population concerns me. The fact that it probably gets a lot of its drive from tourism or maybe people working in Ruapehu, which, of course, I remember you saying the other day that they were having financial issues there.
They have with the ski lift there.
Yeah, that would concern me.
Yeah, if we look at the structure of the economy as well in the Ruapehu district, what do we see? We see that a lot of it comes from agriculture, which you'd probably expect,
probably quite good.
being in a more rural part of New Zealand. Let's just look at where tourism actually does feature. Isn't that fascinating, Andrew? So you can see that tourism as a percentage of Ruapehu district's economy has gone from 5% in 2000. It got all the way up to making about 13% of the economy in the Ruapehu district, but it has plunged since then, post-COVID, down to about 8% of the economy. So that probably leans into what we're saying, that, hey, well, if tourism was making up quite a large percentage of the economy and now it's going the other way, that could be a bit of a concern. And if you look at their entire economy, Ruapehu district grew by 0.3% last year compared to almost 3% for the entire of New Zealand. So, okay, we feel okay about that. Now let's talk about our last three cities. Let's come to the mighty town of Tokoroa. Where is Tokoroa?
Oh, I don't know. I remember we've done some work on it, but I can't remember.
So Tokoroa is in the South Waikato district, and I'll just pull it up. It is one of the most overvalued parts in New Zealand.
That's what we were talking about.
Just north, I suppose, of Taupo and relatively close to Rotorua.
How far away from Hamilton is it?
Now, I can never figure out how to
do
directions on this. So if we say
I reckon if
Tokoroa to Hamilton,
it looks like it's about an hour and a half.
You're just looking at the map, making
an hour and a half. Okay,
as you usually do. Let's see. Well, it's not an hour and a half.
An hour 26.
Oh, that's if you want to take the long route.
I do. I want the scenic route.
Well, no, if you want the fastest route, it's only 1 hour and 9 minutes.
Yeah, this time of day. But I mean, you know. Who's driving now?
Oh, the amount of traffic going from Tokoroa to Hamilton at 9 a.m. is not going to be particularly
good. It's an hour away from Hamilton.
Yeah, so it's an hour, 10 minutes away from Hamilton. And let's pull up some of the stats. As I said, Tokoroa in the South Waikato, one of the most overvalued parts of the country, about 32% overvalued. And this is kind of what we've been saying for a while, right? A lot of regional New Zealand right now is overvalued. A lot of the cities are undervalued. That's why we've had this real focus on Auckland, Christchurch starting to get a bit more interested in Wellington City in particular. But these cheaper places in regional New Zealand still looking a bit overvalued. Decent yield there, 5.4% on average, about 14,000 people, 13,000 people living in Tokoroa, and an average house price of $435K. Where are you putting it?
I'd probably go C again for that one.
You're basically just putting any small town in C except Westport.
Hopefully
we're going to get
I
something.
put Ashburn and Invercargill up there, and I put Timaru at B.
Yeah, but those are.
Now let's do Greymouth now. Don't you have a good joke about Greymouth?
I cannot tell that joke. And there's a good joke about Greymouth, which I heard from Anika Moore.
You tried to tell on the webinar.
Did I?
Yeah, when we had an IT issue, I had to stop you. Right, give me the stats on it.
We're not
telling that joke.
We're not telling.
If you see Ed out, you can stop and ask him to tell you the Greymouth joke.
It's a lovely joke.
Okay.
So Greymouth is in the Grey District. Again, it is on the west coast. Here are the stats for Greymouth. They are a little bit better than Westport. 8,000 people live there. Even cheaper property prices, 300 grand, 7% gross yield, undervalued by 10%. If you put it as D,
I'm going to put
I'm
it
going
at
to kill
B.
you.
A B. Undervalued, good yield, cheap prices, but it is a B rather than an A because of the low population.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, the fact that you've just got to be a bit careful about the undervalued assessment if we're talking about the West Coast for the same reasons we talked about previously. And lastly, let's talk about the mighty city of Wanganui, only an hour south from where I grew up in South Taranaki.
Is it that close?
Oh, yeah. I have been...
Do you know, I like Wanganui because I remember Michael Laws, who I really enjoyed listening to.
You're
on Talk
about
Back.
to alienate half.
Am I? Okay, never mind.
the thing. What are you going to say about
No, I just
Michael
really
Laws?
enjoyed him. You didn't like him?
Some people would... No.
He was polarizing like some of my friends.
He's definitely polarizing. Some people love him, some people hate him. Now, 47,000
Now, if
people
you see me a picture of you with Michael Laws in today's newspaper...
Send your complaints to no reply at Opus Partners. So in Wanganui, 47,000 people live there. Average house price, $440K. Decent yield there, 5.8%. Not as overvalued as it has been previously. I'm pretty sure I had it up at about 40% not that long ago. Now we're sitting at 17%. Additional benefit that it's got a wonderful opera house and it's only an hour away from my birthplace. Where are you going to put it in the list, Andrew?
I'd probably put it as C, but are you gonna jump up and down about that?
No, I'm actually not. Before we looked at the updated stats, I was going to have it in D tier, but the fact that it's not as overvalued as it was not that long ago, I'd probably put it there, though it wouldn't be my favourite place. So if we recap this, our favourite place to invest under $500,000 is Ashburton in the South Island. That's followed by Invercargill in the A tier. In B tier, we've got Timaru and Greymouth, and then C, which we're basically not that stoked about, but Kāwaro, Martin, Gore, Taumaranui, Tokoroa, and Wanganui. And in D tier, we've got Westport. Now, you might disagree with us. Good. I want to hear what you disagree with. So let us know. If you're watching this on YouTube, let us know down in the comment section what you think we've got wrong in this tier list. If you are listening to the audio version of this on the podcast, head over to YouTube if you want to see this. Just Google Opus Partners YouTube. It'll be the first thing that comes up. Of course, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We release new videos every Monday and Wednesday. Thanks for listening to the Property Academy podcast. I'm your host, Steve McKnight.
And I'm Andrew Nicol.
We're going to be back again tomorrow with even more daily strategies, tactics, and insights that help you get the most out of the New Zealand property market. Until next time.